Again, welcome. We're live in the Great Green Tent for Ask an Herbalist. I've got my tea ready. I'll tell you about it if you want me to. If you're watching the replay, please write #replay in the comments, and feel free to comment about anything that we're talking about, ask questions, all that fun stuff. Okay, so while I'm waiting for people to hop on live, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. As a reminder, I'm Sarah. Welcome if you're new around here, and I am a certified family herbalist, a certified nutritional herbalist, and a certified herbalist. And on Monday, I am headed to Springville to Dr. Christopher's School of Natural Healing for the Master Herbalist Seminar. And assuming I pass, which I don't think is a big assumption, if I make it through the week alive, I will then be a certified master herbalist. So this has been nearly a 3-year journey with the herbs. It's been more like a 10-year journey with the natural healing and healthy lifestyle journey. So that's where I'm at. I talk about a little more of my personal story in the pinned post at the top of this group. For those of you watching this on YouTube, the replay on YouTube, the group that I'm talking about is our Facebook group. It's called Whole, Connected, and Free. If you want to search it on YouTube, you would write all one word, Whole, Connected, Free, and that's whole with a W. But of course, there'll be a link there as well. All right, so this is a fun group where we come together. I have 2 different businesses. One is herbalembrace.com, herbal with an H, and that is my handmade products business. And I also am an authorized retailer for Dr. Christopher's and Holistic Botanicals products. And so all of that is on my website. I hope you guys can hear me okay with the mic. If not, the recording on Zoom will definitely work. So, okay. So that's one side of the business, is my handmade products, and then selling the Dr. Christopher products, which I am fully trained how to advise people, how to educate you on how to choose the product that you need in your situation. And I've used these products for the last 3 years for my family, and they are pretty amazing. It's really nice to take the guesswork out of, like, okay, I have a bowel problem and what 10 herbs do I need to combine together, right? Like, usually I'll just do 1 to 5 herbs if I'm making up a combination on my own. But we can also go straight to Dr. Christopher already has a formula for that. And as long as you're not, allergic or sensitive to any of those ingredients, as can happen with any food product, then that's an easy place to go, right? These are time-tested formulas, really great stuff. And I love that, the school and the products, what they really promote is herbs that are safe, herbs that work. They're gentle enough for the youngest and the oldest among us, and the most sensitive among us, as well as, hi, Mike. Welcome. That's my husband. Sorry. That's why I looked at his name pop up on my screen so adoringly. Mike, would you let me know if you can hear me? I'm using the mic today, so I just want to double check that it's working. I could not have done this program without his support. It's a lot of work. Anyway, so they always promote safe herbs, and they also promote herbs that can be found in your backyard for the most part. I mean, there's a couple herbs that are favorites that, might be from a little farther away. Loud and clear. Awesome. Thank you. But then there's also, but most of it is like easy to find herbs. And I love that about the program. Like, it's not about trying to sell you some super exotic products from super far away that's super expensive. Like, herbs can be expensive, but they don't go out of their way to find like the most exotic new trend on herbs. And so I really like that. The school is really all about like teaching you to be your own healer and your own, like, you can go wildcraft and find the herbs and make your own medicine or grow them yourself. And that's really exciting to me because of my passion for self-sufficiency. I'm out here in Utah's West Desert. We've been starting a farmstead for the last almost 3 years. Again, right about the same time that I started at the school. It's all linked together. And that's, I mean, that's like part of like my message on everything. That's why we're called Whole, Connected, and Free in this group. Like everything is linked together. And when things show up that way, that's a pretty big sign to me that like, okay, this is good. Like this is where I need to go with this. Anyway, so I really like that. There's wonderful herbs out there that are from exotic places, you know, like the Chinese medicine herbs. There's huge history of use of those and everything, and that's cool. But for my genetic makeup and my environment and climate, it makes more sense to me to use the herbs that I can grow around me. And yeah, so I just love that. Anyways, and one more thing is that they don't, you know, there are herbs out there that you have to be extremely careful with dosage wise, and that you have to be extremely careful with, you know, in terms of avoiding dependence on the herbs. And I really love that while they don't tell you, you know, there's no place for those herbs, it's not the ones they promote. It's like, okay, look, this one has, like, people use this and they find great help with it, but also there's all these other herbs you can use that are totally safe and not addictive. So I really, really love that. Okay, I see a question here. Let me see if I'm done with my housekeeping here. Okay, so that was my big spiel on the herbalembrace.com business. Everydayandexperiment.com is my other business. That is my herbal education and coaching business. And so there you will find some great digital downloads I released this week. The first is flashcards for 100 herbs, and it's the 100 herbs that Dr. Christopher required us to know for the Master Herbalist program. And so they're great ones, especially for, you know, folks living in North America, especially the Mountain West, but these are pretty common herbs, kind of coast to coast. So that's a great resource in full color, printing instructions and everything. And then the other resource is I have my 20 survival herbs that I put together, where, you know, the flashcards have the botanical name, the common name, the family group, and the part used and the main use. Okay, but just one main use. It's just what they wanted us to remember the most. But then every herb that I've researched has so many uses. And so the 20 survival herbs really goes into like my top 20 that I think are great for any beginner to learn about, and really go into depth of the breadth of use for that herb, and very practical instruction on it. And just as a reminder, I'm not a medical professional. This is purely for educational purposes. I cannot diagnose, treat, or prescribe. Okay. All right. So I'm reading a question. So if I was someone who was interested in starting to care for my family with herbs, but I don't have the money to do courses like you, so like taking the Master Herbalist course, what would you recommend as first steps for me? Well, first steps, I would say stick around, because we're always, you know, I come on live every week and you can ask me questions. I would start with those digital downloads. They're $10 each for a wealth of information that you can digest over time. And then also I have my herb chat series, which is a series that I did live last year, and I hope to get started again when my Master Herbalist is done and my life calms down a little bit more. But I have the recordings up on everydayandexperiment.com under online classes. And so this is where I do talk about those 20 herbs, but I also talk about more than that. I go into key remedies that anyone who wants to take charge of their family's health and wellness, key remedies that anyone can make and understand how to use and are very, very safe. So I believe that's a great place to start, tooting my own horn. There are also, you know, without signing up for the courses, you can still buy every book in the curriculum for the Family Herbalist and all the way up to the Master Herbalist. They're totally available to you. You just don't get, you can't quite buy all the lecture recordings, and you don't get the advantage of like certifying or getting you know, you're not doing assignments and you're not getting feedback, but you can still read all the things. And so that is an even cheaper option than doing the courses. And those actually, because I'm an authorized retailer, I need to get those up on my website. I don't have them yet, but there will be a number of books that you can get from herbalembrace.com to start. In the meantime, Dr. Christopher's Herb Shop in Springville, Utah. It's also drchristophers.herbshop.com. Has all the books, although they frequently run out of stock for some reason. But at least on my website, we can go straight to the source. And that would be a good place to start. My other reco, one of the first places I started was I started joining like homesteading and gardening groups. Like as soon as we moved to Utah, I grew up in the tropics of Asia and also back east. And so the climate was very different. Gardening was super different than what you need to do here in Utah. And so so I needed to learn fast, like how to grow things in Utah. And so I joined all of these groups and advertised on there was a woman named Buna Tomalino, and she owns a shop called Basil and Rose up in Bountiful, Utah. And she does regular, let's see, I think she's a horticulturist. I think that was her education. And she does herb walks pretty much anywhere, I think like as high up in as Ogden down to, I don't know how far south, but like definitely Utah County for my Utah peoples. For my non-Utah people, same idea, like try to like network a little bit, find a horticulturist in your area who will go out to the woods with groups of people, or in Utah, not necessarily the woods, but go out in nature with groups of people, and we'll show you the different herbs. And they'll usually know a little bit about their uses as well, but just getting more familiar with the herbs, starting to grow them yourself. There's a lot to be said for just hands-on experience. So strictlymedicinalseeds.com is my very, very favorite. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that. Mandy, thank you for telling me. Buna passed away. Didn't know that. And her shop is closed. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, that's sad to hear. Oh, okay. Well, so I guess we need to find a new horticulturist to follow around. But David Christopher, who is Dr. John Christopher's son, he does herb walks as well. And like I'll probably start doing them in my area. I think there's a lot of people around who would do them. And so just the idea of like finding someone to shadow through out in the field, so to speak, you can learn a lot more. Oh, that's so sad. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so what I was talking about is so that website, strictlymedicinalseeds.com, is a great place to get seeds and starts for medicinal plants. They're extremely high quality. They came highly recommended to me, and I've had a wonderful experience with them. Like just pick like it's hard. Like I go on that website and I'm like, I have a wish list of 200 plants. Like it's ridiculous, but you know, I'd recommend like just like pick 3 plants that you want to get either starts if you're not confident growing seeds, or get some seeds of. He's got really great descriptions in there of like what's super easy to grow, and just start growing them and just start getting experience with them. I was just rewatching a lecture by Dr. Christopher Hobbs. He's a fun one to follow on Instagram as well. I can't remember what his handle is at this moment, but if you search Dr. Christopher Hobbs, you'll probably find it. Anyway, so he was talking about how, you know, there's so many herbs to know, and not one herbalist knows everything about every single herb on the earth. And I don't think they're meant to, right? It's like any expert on anything, like we're meant to come together and like pool information and figure things out. But every herbalist does form like their favorite set of herbs that they kind of know really well and use for everything. And that's, you know, you don't have to be an herbalist to do that. And so he really recommends like start with 3 and just get really familiar with them and then start expanding from there. Excuse me. Ooh, I'm finally taking this cough seriously that my family's had, starting with when the fire smoke came down to our valley. This nuts. So today I'm drinking, let's see, I put my Happy Lungs blend. It's on herbalembrace.com, which I put together specifically for fires. My husband is a wildland volunteer firefighter. Of course, he's certified. He can do structure fires now too, but he was at a wildland fire that we could actually see from our house. And you know, I was really worried about him. And when I'm really worried and stressed out about his safety, he knows that he just has to ask me to do something for him, and then I'll like calm down. So like if he cuts himself, it's like, Sarah, go up and get a Band-Aid, even though like he already has one. Just so like I'll go do something. Anyway, so I was like, how's it going up there? And he told me like, just have some tea ready when I get home. The smoke's been really bad. So I'm drinking that. It's got mullein. Let's see, mullein, peppermint, plantain, and marshmallow root. There's probably one more in there that I'm forgetting. But they're all cleansing and soothing herbs for the lungs and the whole anywhere they touch when you drink it down. So I've got that in combination with the pine needles, which is a fantastic expectorant. It's also high in shikimic acid, which is great against certain viruses. Okay. Okay, do I have a favorite book from the Dr. Christopher's curriculum? Oh, I'm giving some attitude because my husband asked that. Do I have a favorite book? So right now, right in this moment, I'm gonna say Dr. Mom. So I might have it right here, but I can't like grab it through the tent, but it's called Dr. Mom's Guide to Healthy Living. And that woman has the craziest stories. Like I think they were a blended family. Like she had kids, her husband had kids, and then they like married each other. And so she ended up having like somewhere between 11 and 18 kids that she was caring for. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot. And as soon as she started like studying the curriculum at Dr. Christopher's school, like they experienced all the wackiest health problems. And so she got all this experience of working with them. And so it has really incredible stories. She was also a really incredible midwife. So I really love reading those kind of stories, how to take care of women who are expecting, giving birth, and afterwards. It's very detailed and it's very fun. So I really like that one. Okay. Do you have any other questions, or do you want me to sort of continue what we talked about last week as far as constipation? Woo! Because there's so much more to talk about on that. I will say while you're typing in your questions, let's see, last week, the day before this live, I did a short live where I talked about a client I was working with and this amazing moment that we had. Excuse me, where she's like, okay, that sounds good, but like, I just know that like, I'm going to struggle to actually do it. And so I asked her to come up with a question that she could ask herself whenever she started to have those feelings of like, I can't do it right now. I don't want to do it right now. Like whatever the resistance was. And she came up with a question of, will it be worth it? And when she said that, like, it was just like, whoa, you know, like it was like effervescent energy. I just knew that was the perfect question for her. But then I asked you guys, you know, did a different question for you come up, and what was it? I'd love to hear what it was. And if you if you practiced that at all this week, what was your experience? So, and you can answer that if you're watching the replay. I would love to hear. Okay, I'm not seeing other questions come in. So if it's all right, I'm going to launch into continuing our constipation discussion. Sorry, I giggle every time. I just giggle because, like, growing up, like, you don't talk about poop, right? That's part of the problem. We don't talk about it. We're just kind of like, oh, it's something we do, but like, we don't talk about it. Okay, we have a question. Okay, ADHD/eating sensory issues, are herbs helpful? Is it just a cleansing and food intolerance issue? Oh, that's a fun one. Okay. So I am not an expert in ADHD or sensory issues, okay? I'll say that right off the bat. But I will tell you, based on the principles I've been taught and my understanding of the nervous system and the digestive system, what I believe would be true, or what I would create a conjecture about, okay? So as with anything, it's all an experiment. Like, nobody knows for sure really about anything, even if I was an ADHD expert. It's still, you know, everyone is unique, and it's still all an experiment. So there's a couple things going on that I have a little bit of experience with. So if we're talking just sensory issues in the mouth, so all three of my kids have had posterior tongue ties and lip ties. And that was very interesting to go through. But aside from everything else I want to say on that, because I'm like so passionate about it, it's one of the things that like forced me into the natural health world, because the doctors had nothing for me. So it's like a big topic for me. But anyway, that, if not treated, if not worked on in some way, can actually contribute to those food, sorry, what's it called? Like the sensory issues with eating food. And so so if anyone doesn't know, the tongue tie, so that's your frenulum there. Okay. And then everyone has another one right there. Y'all get to see my lovely insides of my mouth. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't like in high definition. And so when that's going on, when those tissues are tight or too far forward, and you can't move your lips, and you can't move your tongue to the full extent that they are designed to be moved, or it's with a whole lot of tension, right? Because it's too short, then it's all connected. And so all what I've been taught is that it pulls on everything on this midline, which goes all the way back, puts tension on the vagus nerve, which kind of controls your whole body. I mean, there's a lot of different parts of the brain that control different parts of your body, but that vagus nerve is so critical for that nervous system activation regulation process. Okay, so often kids that have this challenge will have food sensory issues. They will have, I'm trying to remember what the word was called. Oh, oral aversions. Okay, so like they don't want anything in their mouth, or it can go right along with like they constantly have their fingers in their mouth as well, because they don't like their whole body feels that tension, and this is the only way they know how to get comfort, right, is to put their fingers in their mouth, to put anything in their mouth, really. Like, that's a very like small human thing, source of comfort. So that's one thing that might be going on. And of course, when you can't move things around in your mouth properly, like the tongue, like especially during breastfeeding, but even for the rest of life, like your tongue actually has a big role, and this is the movement, in how you are processing the food in your mouth, preparing it for digestion. And so if that's not moving properly and you can't, masticate your food properly, and it's subtle, like it's a subtle difference between like full function and impaired function there. And then that can also lead to, if things aren't quite as like broken down as they should be, and then that's going in your throat, and then your body might form an association with that, like, oh, okay, we don't want to eat that food because we can't chew it properly. That last little bit, I can't confirm. Like, I just came up with that right now. So the world according to Sarah. Okay, so I don't know if that's going on for whoever you're asking for, but it is something to look at. It's very common, and it doesn't always require surgery. In fact, I'm all about, finding ways to completely avoid surgery whenever possible. So my kids went through a lot of body work. So they saw a craniosacral therapist, they saw oral motor therapists and chiropractors to start strengthening, like loosening up and toning the tongue and the lips and all the muscles in the oral cavity. There were also some things that we did, as far as there were certain parts of the tongue actually that you could put a Q-tip on that was soaked in, one had vinegar and one had lemon juice, and you put each one in a particular part of the tongue, and it actually activates the nervous system in a certain way to start reducing that oral sensitivity. It's fascinating stuff. And I know how to find the good ones in your area, if you want to reach out to me privately. And then of course the chiropractor, the physical therapist and the craniosacral therapist, they're working here and down the spine, but then the chiropractor, I like using all of them together to just get that whole body unwound. I really believe that all babies, and therefore all humans, if they didn't have it as a baby, really benefit from an unwinding process. And it's really cool to watch, because you do collect and store a certain amount of trauma and emotion from going through that birth canal or coming out of the cesarean surgery and whatnot. And so that gets stored in the body. And often, like my babies, because they were tight here, their whole bodies were tight like this. And it was so sad. And they were so uptight, like not colicky in the traditional sense, but like colicky. Like, and they would have a lot of reflux, and and they were just like this. And so we knew that when they finally relaxed their whole body, that we were making progress. And all three of them did end up getting a laser removal. They go in and laser that, and then you have to take care of the wound and stretch things out for a while. It does eventually grow back, but the hope is that it grows back looser and not so close to the front and everything like this. So there's a lot there. And there's a lot of there's so much debate over what needs doing, but I don't think you can ever go wrong starting with going to a craniosacral therapist, going to a physical therapist who can really get into your mouth. Again, that oral motor therapy, and you can probably find things on YouTube these days of exercises you can do yourself just to stretch out your tongue. This is a little unrelated, but I'm really passionate about it. there's, at least for me, because I've had 3 tongue-tied kids, like, I'm sure I've been told I have a tongue tie as well. I just haven't been in a place to, like, really focus on it myself. Um, but I have so much tension stored in my tongue. And I find that my singing voice really gets released, and I can really relax headaches if I stretch out my tongue. And so I stick my tongue out really, really far, and I go, ah, and all these things, um, to start loosening that up. And it really does. It loosens up my whole body. So that's just a little bit of like how our physical tensions can affect our nervous system and vice versa. We're going to talk a lot about the nervous system in this group. And then, we are at 10:30, but I do want to try to answer the rest of your question. As far as the ADHD part goes, um, again, I'm not a super expert, and I'm giggling because the stance of David Christopher, okay, but I don't speak for the school, but I'm just sharing what he has said in different lectures based on the work of a famous psychologist who used 0 drugs in his practice and had a high success rate, is that ADHD is not as clinical of a label as they make it out to be. That really it's more about our relationships and our beliefs and our presence, and that it doesn't require drugs to calm us down or keep us stable or whatever. So I know that might ruffle some feathers, and I'm sure I have some ADHD tendencies as well. No one has a perfect childhood, no one has a perfect life. We're all kind of fumbling through trying to figure it out. But that psychologist just found over and over again that helping families have stronger connections one-on-one with each other, and one-on-one and within the group, and in some cases just putting yourself in different environments. So like usually it's like kids in school is like the classic example, right? Like the kid won't concentrate, he's rude, he's not following directions, whatever. And this one boy, the psychologist identified issues at home that were leading to this behavior, but also because of those issues at home and the beliefs and behavioral patterns that had created in the boy, that the boy really needed to have a strong male figure as his teacher. And so they moved classrooms and he was totally fine. He was like a star student. And they made changes at home, and everything worked out great. 0 drugs. So that's one example. Again, I'm not an expert and I'm not trying to invalidate anybody. I know personally, like, it's so hard to look at myself or even like my children and be like, why can't you just focus? Or like, why can't I just focus? Or like, why did I just do 10 things instead of the one thing I needed to do? Right. And instead of like looking for a label, I just tell myself, like, this is the human experience. And what's one small thing I can do about it right now? So hi, Sharon, welcome. All right. So stored emotion again too. Yeah. I mean, it's all connected, right? Like your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, what's gotten stored from your own childhood, but also what are you carrying from those that came before you? I really believe that is passed down. And the more aware we become, then it's our opportunity to heal that, not only for ourselves, but also for our ancestors. And I really believe like they're cheering us on. like they can be around us all the time if they want to. This is my belief, the world according to Sarah and the spirit world according to Sarah. Excuse me, that they want us to heal, because as we heal, they heal, and we all come together and we can all come closer to God. Okay, so we have passed our half hour. So Mandy, if you want to follow up with me at all, like, feel free to message me. And the same with anyone, like if you want to just ask a question in the Facebook group, Like if you want to make it like public in our private group, you can. If you want to just direct message me, that's great. If it's something that I can respond to quickly, I will. But if it's something that needs more discussion, I will encourage you to set up some time with me. And so like I said, I'm going to the master seminar this week. I get to spend a week in Springville eating food that I don't have to make. I'm so excited. But also getting that final certification of my education. Obviously, my education will not be over. It is just the beginning of continuing to gain experience and explore things. But anyway, I will see what I can do about updating you guys like each day, like what's it like to go to a master herbalist seminar, because everyone wants to know, right? But then also when I get back, I'm going to start a giveaway, and the prize will be $25 towards any good or service on everydayandexperiment.com. So if you've been really wanting to meet with me, have a consultation or coaching call rather, or sign up for herb chats or whatever, you'll be able to use it on that. And we'll have some fun with it. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. And I will not be going live next week, but like I said, I'll see if I can share little tidbits through the week. And otherwise, our next live Ask an Herbalist will be 2 Fridays from now. Okay, take care, everybody. Please reach out if you need help. I'm happy to help you, and happy experimenting. Bye.